all right, me neither. Right, so yeah, we're live now. Brilliant. Good evening, viewers.
Good evening.
Yeah, welcome to the Aaron and Zannie show. It's week 5. Can you believe I've been that consistent? I've done 5 weeks in a row.
Keeping you on the straight and narrow.
Why you doing me good? You're doing me good, Aaron. Tonight we guest Tina P, or as I call her, TP, Tina. And we are talking about, are you going to say good evening?
Oh, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about psychedelics today, hallucinogenics, and what are they? Are they good for you? Are they bad for you? What's the history to them? What do the mainstream say about them? So we're going to try and look at it from as many angles as possible, and hopefully it should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, hopefully.
Excellent. So, should we start by what you learned about hallucinogenics growing up from the mainstream media and from the educational system?
I don't think you really learn much. I mean, as a kid, you sort of learn by picking things up from the older kids, and they tell you about magic mushrooms and liberty caps that grow local, and you end up picking them and trying them yourself.
Evening light worker 369. Thank you for tuning in. When I was growing up, we were educated on the dangers of acid and LSD in class. What was that class called? PSE. Personal and social education. And they basically scared me to death about them. And they told us that LSD, acid, is a very dangerous drug, that if you take it, you would quite possibly want to kill yourself by jumping out of a window thinking you could fly. That's what they said. So I was terrified of them and never came into any, well, actually, I did come into some personal contact quite early on. But Tina, this evening, we were just going out one day. We were only teenagers, about 14, weren't we? And we bumped into a bus stop, and he picked some Liberty caps. He had a big bag of them, and he sold them to us for £2. And we ate them, and it was actually the best day of my life. And it was nothing like what the teacher named, but because they were magic mushrooms and the teacher was specifically talking about LSD, I just thought LSD was the dangerous one, you know, and I did believe it was dangerous. I did believe that class. I also remember some propaganda on the television about, I think it was Brookside, and Grange Hill might have done one of the same. Well, as they and it was that story what the teacher had told me as well. So it was like reinforcing that some teenager drops an acid, climbs up some scaffolding, thinks can fly, hits the floor, and dies. Reinforced that what the teacher had said. So I was even more frightened of them by the time I saw that.
Well, I must have missed this class at school when they did it at our school, because I can't remember anything. I do remember the Grange Hill thing. That was like more towards heroin and things.
Yeah, what was his name? Zamo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember that. Yeah, but I children
You break it up quite bad.
That trip scenario on two. Okay, I'm just saying I definitely saw that trip scenario on 2 different TV dramas, should I say. So my understanding was very negative. Are we still there?
Yeah, he's still here.
Okay, yeah. So when was what was the first thing you learned then about LSD or even magic mushrooms or anything?
Well, it's sort of at my age. I sort of started experiment with them, like you said, about 14-year-old. So I didn't have access to any other kind of drugs really. But we knew that these magic mushrooms grew wild on a cricket pitch and also at the back of the school where I used to go, which was on some moorland. So we go and pick them and then sort of just experiment by eating them. And sort of when I got to 16, we found better spots and we're getting more, and we're getting our mates to join in, making brews, things like that. But we sort of abused them that day. Didn't really realise what the potential of them were for. So I think like most people, they get put off by the young experiences with it.
And what about magic mushrooms or hallucinogenics as an adult? Like, you know, my first introduction to them was on some documentary about the use of hallucinogenics in like shamanic practices in tribal people, for example.
Yeah.
So that was like my first education on it. So I was quite surprised that people in tribes used hallucinogenics.
I think it goes through history. Like the African tribes used to use them, the South American tribes did. So it's been around for a long time. I think the South Americans have been using it since like 800 years before BC. So it's the classic Mayans, I think they were called. They were using them. So
and what kind of things did they?
They did ceremonies, and it's like seen as a mystic experience. I think it went mainstream in the 60s because there's a woman who was still continuing some of these ceremonies in South America, and the hippies got wind of it, and it took it to America, and that's where it all blew up in the 60s. So it sort of spread from there to Asia and everywhere else. But I mean, before it was mainstream, I think they've been practicing these things for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah, well, that goes alongside with things that I've learned about magic mushrooms as an adult and other plants, ayahuasca and things that in tribes and in ancient cultures used to use hallucinogenics in rituals for all kinds of different things. But it was a very ritualistic thing, and not everybody in the tribe like got high. It wasn't a big party.
Well, I read with some of the tribes that the old family would have them, even the children, and experience it as a family. But I can't remember where that was. I think it's some Russian tribes.
Well, the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, according to mainstream history, used to call mushrooms the sons of the gods and plants of immortality, and thought that the storm god set them by hurling lightning bolts coated in mushroom seed to earth, and that consuming these mushrooms was the exclusive privilege of the pharaoh and his dining companions. So they did have a knees up on them.
Well, they're the ones who got stuck in the team with them, like, so. But they give magic mushrooms to people who they have done in the past to people who have got, they're going to die shortly, and it helps them accept the inevitability of death. So it's got many uses.
Now, I know you've had some experience with mushrooms, and I've shared some of those experiences. Why do you think that people would be able to come to terms with their own death after eating mushrooms?
I think it just lets you prioritize things, and get things into perspective, and probably connects you to a spiritual side. I mean, it's quite high reports in people having like altering experience, massive life-changing experiences on mushrooms just within that few hours.
Yeah, I think an experience like that, because I've experienced it, and you can have some very profound and very spiritual.
That's the word I was looking for.
Experiences on them, giving them to a dying person to mortality, like soon, like right now. It's good because whether it's just a waking dream or it is a gateway to God, it gives people peace of mind that there is an afterlife to go.
Yeah,
and there's there's more to it than this here.
Yeah, it makes you realise that you're not just. It's a connection to oneness. You feel connected to something, and just the reality of life. You can feel very disconnected, like you're not connected to anything. It's a lonely experience. It's just your own experience of reality. With the mushrooms, it like opens it up, like reality's observing you as much as you're observing it, and you're all part of one big thing.
Yeah.
That all we return
I've definitely
to.
thought.
It's like an hot wire, isn't it? You're hot wiring into the spiritual. You can meditate.
Yeah, when you look at it, but we're getting quite a crackly line. Yeah, it's all right.
You're just breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
What you're saying?
If you're hearing okay. Viewers,
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a glitchy line, but we'll continue for as long as we can. You're just saying.
I don't know. You've lost me.
We lost that train of thought. Well, I'll go back to the Egyptians then, because we were talking about them before we went off on our death tangent. It says here that the Egyptians thought mushrooms were absolutely delicious, and they considered them a health food. And in the early 400s, an Egyptian scholar named Athenaeus, he authored a book, a stone book, whatever. He ordered the Noshisti, the partying professor, or the gastronomers, depending on your translation. Anyway, he authored this, and it's actually a recipe for a dish called Maikai. Maikai. And apparently it was very popular amongst the classical authors. Anyway, I thought that was going somewhere else. But so the Egyptians,
they're all about the powers that they possess. I had a friend when I was tripping one time. He had a joint, but it had like lotus flower in it, one of the Egyptian sacred flowers. I'm not quite sure the name of it, a blue locust flower or something. And you smoked this, and it just amplified the eye so much. It was like they were made for each other. So they knew exactly what they were doing to enhance the feelings that you get from drugs and mixing them with others. But the herbs, just natural things that grow that you won't think would stimulate something else.
Yeah, so the new example doing with just they did know a lot about apparently. I always say that when I'm talking about history because I don't know, I wasn't there, but it does I'm always shocked to read these things from like cultures from thousands of years ago, you know, documenting all the flowers and all the wildlife, and you know, just like we do in these days, but like really going into depth and having great knowledge on these things, because we're always told that, you know, we're cavemen and we, you know, evolved from slime creatures from the sea anyway. But,
yeah, with the height of civilization.
But when you look at these pieces from history, it does look like they were at the height of civilization, and we've done nothing but devolve ever since.
Yeah, exactly. We're just so far away from who we are that we don't know who we are no more.
So I'm wondering if to fix this messed up, shook up world that we live in, maybe everyone should be on magic mushrooms and we'll go back to the height of civilization.
I don't think it'd be a bad thing. I think a lot of the world's problems would be solved with such a thing. But it's like the pressures of life, having a job and to fit in, and money worries and things like that. When I was totally engrossed in the system, the worst thing I could think about was someone spiking my drink with, say, magic mushrooms or acid, because I didn't feel like my mind could take it. But now I've sort of taken that pressure off myself. My mind's just open to the experience and it wants more. Once you get over that ego death, but when you've got a lot invested in surviving and getting by and loans, pay it back and stuff like that, it's something you can't really do.
Yeah, because it might just amplify all that in your head.
We can't take. It's like, why am I doing this? And you got so many conflicting things that you're actually doing, but you don't really think about it. But the magic mushrooms do make you think about these things. So your first couple of experiences might not actually be that pleasant, but you're just dealing with hidden issues that are there, but you don't realise it. That's what the mushrooms are brilliant at, bringing up problems that are bothering you that you might hide subconsciously. You're giving power to the subconscious and letting that take over. And it can be scary, you know, when you're taking large doses, you can get a bit of anxiety beforehand, but that's when you know you're hitting your limit.
Did you break them?
I just thought I'd see what
well, so you just said ego death. Can you
you're really
explain
breaking
people
up.
that know what I said? Can you explain what ego?
I can't get. I'm not getting anything. What you're saying?
To watching. Okay, right. Because it's a bad line, I'm gonna end this. Yeah, we'll hang up and I'll send a new link and then we'll start again.
It's difficult.
It's a bit hard. So Tina might have some of that fairy stuff. What? So hang up. Definitely.
Right, I'm going to hang up.
Okay, viewers, we are coming back as soon as possible. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.